New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is unleashing on President Trump, calling him every insult under the sun. Ocasio-Cortez let her frustrations fly at a recent rally with Senator Bernie Sanders, calling the president a slew of names. Let's take a look.
Donald Trump is a criminal. He was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, liable for sexual abuse. Of course he is lying and manipulating the stock market too. And if Donald Trump wants to find the rapists and criminals in this country, he needs to look in a mirror today.
AOC and Senator Sanders have been drawing massive crowds throughout their Fighting Oligarchy tour.
The New York Congresswoman is the biggest rising star in the Democratic Party, and her name has been floated as a potential 2028 presidential candidate. Her recent string of rallies with Sanders have dominated headlines, winning her praise from the public. One user on X agreed with her sentiments about Trump, writing, "AOC said what the justice system already proved. Trump doesn't need to fear immigrants, he needs to fear his own rap sheet. 34 felony convictions, a sexual abuse verdict, and still playing the law and order card. The projection is staggering." Another user saying, "Wow, AOC, a House member who isn't in leadership and has a safe seat, raised $9.6 million in the first quarter of 2025. Huge."
Yeah, it's not a surprise. AOC and Bernie Sanders, we talked about this yesterday. They have something. They have some kind of energy on their side, and I think Bernie is very much engaged in this process now of trying to transfer the goodwill and momentum he's always had as a credible working class, populist, democratic socialist, left person, and transfer that momentum to AOC, who I think he sees as his successor. I mean, there's really no one else who has the kind of name recognition and credibility, although I think she appeals to a slightly different crowd. You know, we'll see if working class people, the kind of coalition that Bernie Sanders really had behind him, that did kind of, some of them have, exited that and are fans of Trump, but he has more energy and genuine vibes behind him than anyone else in the Democratic Party. And can AOC inherit all of that, I think, is the question.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I do think that she is plainly the person best placed to inherit that mantle and to carry that torch forward. And I think we were talking yesterday about the fact that this tour they're doing, in a symbolic way, almost seems a little bit like that, a passing of the torch. Now, in relation to what she said about Trump, I mean, those are factual allegations. He has indeed been criminally convicted in relation to fraud. He has been found by a civil jury liable for sexual abuse in the E. Jean Carroll case. The only accusation that AOC made that I think is even questionable is the least serious of them, the idea that he's manipulating the stock market. I'm not persuaded really that him saying, "great time to buy stocks," is any form of manipulation or insider trading. That's just Trump being Trump and cheerleading. But the fact that he has felony convictions, the fact that he had that civil verdict go against him, those are just plain facts, and I think she's more than entitled to bring them up.
She can bring them up. He was impeached twice. He has, yes, that rap sheet. All of this was known to voters when they made the decision back in November. And not only did he win anyway, he won the popular vote. His victory was actually more impressive this time around than it was in 2016. I think I would argue. And that was despite all of that being well known to all of Americans. I don't think there's a single American who isn't aware of the various criminal charges and impeachments. That just didn't matter enough to voters, right? I mean, what can one say? This was put to the vote, and the people said, we're overlooking this.
Yeah, but to be fair to AOC, she's not invalidating the election. Yeah. She's making the argument that this is not a person of the character or ethics who she believes should be president of the United States.
I guess I'm saying, don't you just have to come up with a new argument then, if that argument absolutely failed to persuade the first time around?
But isn't the whole reason that she's out on this tour that she is now making a new argument about the oligarchy, about the influence of people like Elon Musk, and not only, as it were, name-calling people like Musk or Trump, but arguing that the policies that they are pursuing are damaging and will inflict pain upon American people. That's the argument. The argument is that government has been, as it were, seized by these unethical, extraordinarily rich guys who are using their power to the detriment of the American public.
I guess another line of attack I would have on this, or that I might, if I was a Republican operative, suggest they start raising, is it really the case? I think it's fair to say we're seeing an unprecedented level of support for Trump and his agenda from, yes, very wealthy tech executive business people, but the Democratic Party has also enjoyed the support of these people in the past and maybe would again if they return to power. I think there are some more cynical conservatives who actually do think this is all maybe not Musk, but the Bezos and Zuckerberg in particular, this is all performative to get more favorable treatment. But if Dems were back in power, they'd be right back on board sponsoring all sorts of initiatives that align with progressive policies, that Alex Soros was hanging out with Kamala Harris, that was the Illinois Governor Pritzker, who's himself a billionaire, that there's plenty of oligarchical power has been historically behind Democrats and will be again. And so now I know that's not what Bernie Sanders and AOC want. Right. I know that's not their vision for the party.
Not what I want either.
It's not what you want. Yeah. Can that vision for the party actually take over up against such strong financial and political incentives that seem to go the other way? I think AOC is going to have a harder time of it even than Bernie.
Well, look, I have argued on this show a lot of times that there is too much money that just sluices around American politics, and it gives too much money to very wealthy people, whatever the political views of those wealthy people happen to be. By allowing such effectively unregulated spending, you drown out the voices of people who do not have that wealth to draw upon. Now, there is, to your point about Zuckerberg and Bezos and all of that, there are definitely people who are willing to cozy up to power and will do that regardless of who's in power. But I think the danger in this administration is we have seen enormously wealthy institutions, Columbia University, for example, cave to Trump on a matter of central integrity to their own academic system. We have seen law firms cave to Trump over a central purpose that they should have, the ability and the willingness to defend people or to represent people who are going against a presidential administration. So I think the problem of people making nice with power is a major problem, and whether they would do it with Democrats or not, they're doing it here and now to Trump while he infringes on these basic rights.
Well, let me go back to Zuckerberg, though, just very briefly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the defense of what he's doing is he's cozying up to power because the government has tried and is trying to destroy his company, right? Is trying to break it up into small little pieces. So why would he not try to have a more favorable relationship with the people in charge of the government? What if they have the power to take his vast, successful social media company and, smash it against the rocks? Well, of course he's going to try to have a better relationship with who's in charge. It would be insane for him not to. It would be contrary. It would be in violation of his obligation to his shareholders not to try to get along better with whoever's in charge. That would be almost suicidally naive to expect that what he's not gonna hang out with and try to be nice with. If government has the power over you, over your company, and again, this is my libertarian side of this, while I also bemoan to some extent the influence of money in politics or how much business can influence government, it's because government is so powerful and so vast and can do so much and can regulate so much and can pick winners and losers. And if the government was less involved in these kinds of things, there would be less incentive to spend money to influence the government if it was more in line with, going back 250 years ago to our founders who could have never imagined a federal government powerful enough to do any of these things.
Yeah, but the point is that the financial power that people like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or George Soros have is enormous. You and I and the vast majority of people watching this show do not have that power. And so the propensity to use that level of wealth to, whether it is to protect yourself from the federal government or more likely to redirect the federal government in the ways that you want, is itself bad for the nation as a whole and for democracy, because it drowns out people who don't have that wealth, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or anyone else.
Up next, a U.S. immigration attorney and American citizen mistakenly received an email saying she has to leave the country. We will discuss with her on the show. Stay with us.